This one's really fun. I'm waiting for people because I know we've got a few coming on. Lily told me that she had to get off at a hard stop at 10:55. Oh, and it's 10:01. I love that number.
Yeah, I want you to see something. I got this. Oh, I just got it. I just got it this weekend.
Oh my God.
I'm so excited to start it.
How exciting, Raquel.
Well, it's so exciting. I can't wait to start it. I got it. Yes.
I'm gonna do a design enlightenment session. I'm definitely going to do a design enlightenment session. I think everybody could use it in this pandemic because we need to kind of, connect with our homes and make them sacred and make us feel good.
Mm-hmm.
More than ever, I think. And it's funny because I've gone through all these subjects and haven't touched the one that is the one that I'm the most connected with. So I will definitely be doing that. That's definitely one of them coming up. In fact, the ones that the relationship with money came down. Then I probably will do the design enlightenment one. Then I want to touch upon children and indigo, crystal, rainbow children, not just as ours, as we are, like those of us that have children, but also for ourselves. What children are we on this planet? And then I think I'm going to do the 5 love languages because I think that's a good one.
That's a good one.
Yeah, because for me, these sessions are about every little step that I've taken in my own process to get to where I am. And I sit down with myself and ask, okay, what got me here and what took me, what taught me to this point? It's kind of like, which courses did I take throughout my life? Which courses did I go on that helped me to get to this place? And as I started thinking about that, all of these things were revealed. It's like, oh, I studied the 5 love languages. I studied my relationship with money. I studied the design enlightenment process. I studied what was the crystal children, indigo children, and all of these things. And all of these little steps are like little stepping stones along the way. And sometimes oops, Leslie, what happened to you?
Sorry.
As I'm a natural kind of investigative learner. I'm a seeker. I come from a family of seekers and searchers. My sister who's on will be able to attest to that. Today's going to be very interesting, Meech, because you're going to hear my beliefs about money. And that's a touchy subject in our family.
Yep.
Because we've been through a lot with regards to money. And for me, the most important aspect about learning this lesson of today is because if we can understand, hi Lily, if we can understand our relationship and our thoughts and beliefs and conditioning regarding money, and we can learn how to break those abundance blocks regarding money, we can do that with anything. Do you get that? Does that resonate? Because I believe that money is one of the topics that causes the most heartache in relationships, in couples, in lives. Don't you agree? I mean, if I asked you, what is the number one topic of discussion in a couple or in a family, what would you say? It's probably money, right? And it's because of the conditioned beliefs that we have around money. People from especially the generations past that actually did experience a lot of heartache regarding money, a lot of suffering, a lot of lack. I come personally from a family of immigrants that literally left every single thing behind. I mean, imagine having every single possession and every single thing that you have created in your life completely wiped out and starting from scratch, right? That creates a huge trauma embedded in your DNA. And the immigrant mentality comes with that. I mean, it's like a conditioned belief from the past. We come from like, be careful. Everything could be taken away at a moment's notice, right? So I carried it. My sister carried it. Most of us that have came to this country in those conditions carry that conditioned belief. And did you know that your mindset about money is usually set before you are 5 years old? Whatever they told you, whatever your... Who's that going? Can everybody mute until they're going to talk with me? That would be great. What happened? Everybody got lost. Hey, where are you guys?
I don't know what happened. B, can I tell you something too before you move on?
Sure.
When I was growing up, we didn't have a lot of money, but my mother has always, I mean, still to this day, she's a praying mother and she does the rosary every day and stuff. And mine experience was that she would write checks and sometimes they would bounce, but she would always have that mentality that we're full of abundance and we're always going to receive. What I didn't learn was to be mindful of what you're spending, budgeting, things like that. So it was interesting to see that even though we didn't have a lot of money, she always knew we would have food, we'd have a roof over our head, and that kind of belief. So it's kind of interesting to have that fear, but yet she never had the fear, but yet she would spend knowing she didn't have it.
Well, let me tell you, that's an unusual trait. And I can tell you that in my own family, and we're going to go through this exercises because I want to ask questions. And remember that I've talked a lot about the strength and the power of asking questions. Okay. Those of you that have not been on this call throughout the beginning. Okay. Deborah, are you not muted? Okay.
I'm muted.
Okay. All right. So one of the things that is incredibly powerful in your arsenal of spiritual self-development is asking questions. Okay. I cannot reinforce that enough. We don't realize that we are capable of asking questions of ourselves from 3 different perspectives. Okay. We can ask them from our higher consciousness at the soul level. We can ask them from our mind level, and we can ask them from our body level, mind, body, spirit. Remember that. You can connect and get answers to your questions at those 3 levels at any time. Now, what's really important is to find the stillness so that the answer to that question is a truth for you. And everybody's truth is different because everybody's belief patterns are different, right? So today we're going to learn how to do that regarding money. And I want to give you some resources because to me, there's 3 different resources that I used for myself in my development as how to relate to money. Okay. Christine Marie Sheldon is a wonderful resource. She has a wonderful system, which is the one that we are going to use today. I also love, as you know, Louise Hay. Louise Hay's chapter on prosperity in her book is a must read. Okay. And it's short and it's very easy. And this is also what helped me to discover my patterns and my blocks when it comes to abundance, right? And then I like also some meditation practices that Marissa Peer uses. Marissa with 2 S's, Peer, 2 E's. all three of these resources were what helped me to discover what my beliefs were and help release my abundance blocks. Okay? So, questions, very important thing. First, I want you to become aware of all of the things that you've heard throughout your life regarding money.
Excuse me, can you say the name of the first person, Christine?
Christine Marie Sheldon.
Thank you.
No problem. So how many of you have heard that money doesn't grow on trees? When do you remember hearing that? Probably like when you were
When we were kids.
Right, when we were kids. Money doesn't grow on trees. What are you thinking, right?
And we even tell our kids that sometimes now too.
Do you do that now? I mean,
Of course.
This is super cool because I want you to not only just think about how you got these beliefs, but also how you're transferring them to someone else. Okay? So what about, money just slips through my hands, right? What about, how many times have you heard, oh man, those people are filthy rich? Where did that come from? Filthy. Why is money filthy? Right? That's a big one. I've heard it all the time. Money is the root of all evil. Since when did money become evil? Right? But these are the things that we have been repeated over and over since we were kids, right? I will never make any money. Money goes out as fast as it comes in. Poor people can never get out from under things, right? Only people who cheat have money, right? Oh, and I couldn't possibly charge that much money, right? That's crazy. I can't. No, right? All of these things. Never tell anybody what you have in the bank, right? Never lend money. Money is evil. Rich people are crooks, right? These are all these beliefs that have been ingrained in us from childhood. And it's all, guess what, based on what emotion? Fear. We're afraid to think about money in that way, in a way that's positive, in a way that it's just an energy. It's a transfer of energy. It's a tool that we use. But all of these connotations regarding money have been ingrained in us since we were little kids. So how do we get rid of those? For me, the most important aspect of it was to figure out when this occurred and what were my beliefs around money. Going back to when I was a child, I was blessed to have two sets of grandparents, right, that lived with us pretty much our life, our whole life, at least our childhood, right, Mish? So they had two very different money mindsets. On my father's side, my grandparents were very, very wealthy in Cuba. But of course, the trauma of losing that all came in to the United States, right? And then on the other side, on my mother's side, it could not have been more opposite. My grandparents were very, very poor, especially my grandfather, who in fact came here during the Depression. Imagine coming in 1929, really? So he experienced so much trauma regarding money that there was that strong belief system that definitely money did not grow on trees, that it was never in abundance, that it was always to be very hoarded, taken care of, and the humility meant not having money, right? So this belief system was ingrained from day one for me, right? So by default, I believe that my mom especially had that conditioning. But This is what I understand to be true today. But using Christine Marie Sheldon's method, okay, we're going to go through these 5 steps together because I want you to practice this. This doesn't happen overnight. And I guarantee you, we all of us, no matter how abundant a life we live, we all have money and abundance and prosperity blocks. All of them. They're deeply rooted inside, even if on the outside, we seem to have overcome them. But they're still in there, because even for myself, I still find myself, even being aware, struggling with little things stupid things that I do. Okay? So we're going to go here first, and then we're going to come back to other ideas. So I want you guys to take some deep breaths and close your eyes with me. If you want, you can close your eyes and look as if you were looking towards your eyebrows with your eyelids closed. And take another very deep breath. And now I want you to imagine that you are connecting to the light. Connecting to the light above your head and expanding that light and bringing that light into the crown of your head and coming in through the top of your head and coming into the center of your heart. And as you do that, you take another deep breath. This light is the light that gives and receives, and is in an eternal pattern of coming in and out. Now we're going to ask a question. What was the first stage that I felt a lack of money? Breathe into that. When did that occur in my life? Now you're going to go a little deeper. Who was the person duplicated this from? Where did it come from? Where did that idea come from? And go deep into that. How old were you? What were the words that were said? And now we're going to dive a little bit deeper into that and see what are the emotions that came up for you at that time. Can you name them? Did you feel afraid? Did you feel worried? Did you feel anxious? What were the emotions that you felt at that time? And now I want you to take that feeling that you had, and I want you to pinpoint in your body where that emotion was felt. Was it in the pit of your stomach? Was it in your heart? Was it in your throat? Was it in your head? Take a breath. Okay. And now we're going to use a word. We're going to use words. We're going to take that thought and that emotion and that moment in time, and we're going to clear and transmute it across all the time, the space, the dimensions, and this reality. Because you are not there any longer. That is not me. That was just an experience. Okay, so now I would love it if you would, any of you would share with me what came up for you.
So I want to share.
Okay.
So I want to share something crazy, okay? For many years, and I never grew up, when I grew up at home with my parents, my father was the complete opposite to my mother, okay? My father was a spender. He overspended. We always had abundance with him, okay? In my mother's case,
I work hard.
okay?
I work great.
Hold on.
I'm bad. 17 minutes ago, they just put the shit up.
Okay, sorry. In my mother's case, my mother also came from a wealthy family, but she was more conservative.
Mm-hmm.
So she was always the one who would say, "El dinero no doesn't grow on trees. You need to be careful. You need to save. You can't spend like your father. Your dad is un gastador. You have to save money." Right. So that was always a mentality. I've always been one to believe that in order for us to have money, you have to think you have money. But for many years, or for several years, B, you have told me that I live in a state of not having abundance.
Mm.
But it didn't come from my parents, at least I think, right? And now when we were doing this exercise, what came to me is, ever since I got married to Leonard, is that I started to have lack of abundance, or think that I had lack of abundance, because his mentality has always been.
I'm so happy you said that. You know why? Because
Why?
I struggle with this too, because we come into we always join with a partner in our life that has a different belief system than you do. And this is not just about money, guys. This is about everything. So sometimes we adopt the belief system of somebody else.
Okay, yes. So for many years, and now that we did this exercise, I'm like, oh my God, it hasn't been my parents. You know, although my mother was always about saving, and my mother's always been a money hoarder. She would always stick money under the mattresses. She's always been one to save. She's always been one to tell me, you know, even if you and your husband have money, you always have to save money on the side, always have your separate bank account, always keep your money separate because you don't know what's going to happen. Like, that's been her mentality, right?
Right.
But I've noticed that with Leonard's always been very, you think you have money, you think you're rich, you think you spend like, if you don't, you know, like, you could tell that he stresses when we're short and when we don't have. I don't. Although I have lived, you know, in the past couple of years with that lack of abundance, right, mentality, because I've been with him. I've never been a worrier. Like, I've never been worried about not having money. Like, that doesn't faze me, because I know that at some point or another it'll come up. We'll figure it out.
Well, it's wonderful that you're mentioning that, because that is such a key element. Oftentimes we look at what happened when you did this exercise. You found out that your money mentality at the beginning stage of your life was actually not lacking. There was some fear there, because obviously your mother put things, you know, she always had like a little side job, you know, a little side stash, just in case. And that comes from fear, obviously. If just in case is a lack mentality, right? It's like, it's not going to be there always, so I better have some just in case, right? So that is still there. There's still a little fear thing, but you overcame that, and now you adopted new fears with your partner, you know, and this is why we have to counteract what the thoughts and beliefs that are thrown at us, because we end up believing them, and they are not true. They are not true. The universe is abundant. There are more resources on this planet than we could ever get through. And yet, believe it or not, our politics and our news tells us that there is lack, that we need to hoard because there's not enough. And that is not true. That is just a story that they keep telling us.
I want to share one last thing, one quick last thing, talking about hoarding. My husband's, to the level of my husband's lack, he hoards everything. My husband hoards plastic bottles. My husband hoards nails, used nails, like used nails from, and I've always thought, why does this man do this? Like, why do I buy orange, you know, like the cartons of orange juice, right? And why does he save them? And it's because in his mind, it's easier to do that than it is to go and buy a carafe to make orange juice at home. So since we make our own orange juice at home, when we've bought in the past the jars of orange juice, he hoards them. He puts them away so that we can make our own orange juice instead of going and buying the carafe.
Oh my God.
And me and the cleaning lady have found dozens, not just one or two, dozens of carafes under the sink.
Oh my God.
It's crazy. And the nails that come off of the crates, he saves them. He picks them up and he saves them.
Why do I need to spend money on stuff we have already? That's what he's
correct. That's what he does. He thinks that. That's how he thinks.
Well, it would be a thing for you to somehow, maybe, possibly get him to do this exercise and figure out when this happened to him, because obviously something traumatized him.
Of course, and I think it was my father-in-law, because my father-in-law has that mentality. My father-in-law has that mentality of you don't have to be a business owner or anything like that. You need to be an employee. That's his mentality.
So here's what came up the first time that I did this, and I highly recommend that you do this not just once. What you just did with me, look at that little, what time did we spend? 3 minutes at the most? And look at how much comes up, right? This is the power of asking questions in silence, okay? What came up for me, and Michi, you'll relate to this because my sister is 3 years younger than I am, okay? So when I did this exercise for the first time, because I never remember as a young child, even though my grandparents came as immigrants, even though I don't remember having like luxurious things, I never felt a sense of lack. I felt very peaceful. This is up until one moment, and this was the moment of trauma for me. When I was 10 years old in 1974, okay? Right, Meech?
I thought exactly that moment where Mom sat with us.
Yes. In 1974, the shit hit the fan, kind of like in 2008 here in construction. And my parents were involved in construction. They were involved in glass and glazing. They were involved in a framing shop, everything that had to do with that. And in 1974, we hit that big recession. And look at how distinct, I'm terrible about remembering my little nuances of childhood, really. I'm totally terrible about it. Some people can remember everything. I can't. But I can tell you that you remember trauma, okay? And at that moment, everything fell apart. I remember my father's car being repossessed. I remember my grandparents crying. I remember my mom crying. And I remember that I was so young and innocent. You know, I was 10 years old. I was like, hey, there's going to be a party on Saturday. Mommy, I can't wait. Can you get me something nice to wear? Can you get me I want to wear a pretty dress. And she looked at me, and I'll never forget this. And I said, listen to me right now, what I'm about to tell you. If you want to wear a pretty dress, you better learn how to make it yourself. I felt that, and this is why I want you to understand, where did you feel what you felt in your body? Okay, because I felt that go right through the pit of my stomach. And all of a sudden, all of my childhood innocence disappeared at that moment. It literally just went poof. And all of a sudden, I became an adult, believe it or not, at 10. And from then on, I did learn how to make my own clothes. And I sewed my own clothes until I was 18 years old. And I scavenged through my grandmother's things that she brought from Cuba and adapted them for myself because I wanted something cool. And she taught me how to sew and make patterns out of newspaper. And I went about that for many, many years. And I believed that we didn't have enough. Okay, I remember listening to my mom crying with a closed door, behind closed doors, trying to figure out how much jewelry she had so she could sell it. Which she never did anyway because she loves her jewelry.
Yeah, you know, it's really funny that you mentioned, because you were a lot older than I was. I mean, I was younger. I only remember them telling us that things were going to change, that we couldn't just buy things, that we couldn't have the toys and things that we wanted. But I don't remember the cars being repossessed, maybe because I didn't understand that, you know, I was a lot younger.
Yeah, I remember it hit me harder than it hit you.
Yeah.
Because obviously you were a little bit younger. But this
Yeah.
distinct moment in my life, really, I can tell you right then and there, what came up for me in this exercise was, at that moment, I became an adult. At that moment, I became responsible for myself. And at that moment, I feared that I was not supported. Okay, that I didn't have a support system. That at a moment's notice, everything could disappear. So I can tell you, that was a pivotal moment for me. And I carried that for years, years and years, that belief that I had to be thrifty, that I couldn't buy things at full value, like retail. Are you kidding me? It better be on sale, honey, or it's not coming into my house, right? So I lived in that mentality for years. But this exercise was the one that brought it out. Because what happens is that we forget. We forget the things we've been told. We forget the conditioning and beliefs that we have inside of our bodies, our minds, and our spirits. We forget them. We push them down and we recess them into the deep, deep recesses of our minds, our bodies, and our soul. And sometimes these spiritual blocks are not just from this lifetime. I want you to know. Sometimes they come from other lifetimes, and we carry them through, and we believe them. And then something happens in this lifetime, which is a repeated pattern, because we repeat the patterns that we don't purge. These shadow beliefs that are in the back of our minds and in the back of our hearts, we carry them with us until somebody pushes that button. And it triggers it. It's kind of like if you don't feel a bruise, but the moment that you touch it, you're like, ow. And that's what's embedded in us. Okay? And we don't even realize it. So it's important that exercise that I did, and if you want to dive deeper into it, feel free to pull up Christine Marie Sheldon's work, as well as Marissa Peer, because both of them do this in a more kind of hypnotic, subconscious work, which helps you to bring up any of those blocks that we feel regarding abundance and prosperity. So one of the things that Marissa says is, she says, and this is important, after you go into a state of meditation, after you go into a calm silence and you ask these questions and they come up, you transmute it by saying, that is not me because, and you say this out loud, that is not me because, and you answer that question. Now, I'd love to hear anybody else, any other blocks that came up. Yes, Raquel.
So when we were doing the meditation, something came up, and this was a long time ago, probably like when I was 9, 10. I remember one Christmas, we're 4 girls. My mom has 4 girls. By then we were only 3, but it was one Christmas that I told my mom, I don't want a gift, give it to my sisters, my 2 younger sisters, because I knew she didn't have enough money. So that when we were doing the meditation, that moment in life came back in my head. Like, that's what I was thinking. That's where it took me back.
Wow.
So now, and I remember saying they got the baby alive. I know it's a daughter. The one that walks, and the one that walks, and the one that you gotta change the diapers because you feed them. And so I told my mom, get them that, and I won't get a gift this Christmas, so that way they have it.
Oh.
So maybe, like, I have a daughter now. She's 4. She's 4. So the one of the sisters that she remembered that, and she gave 2 years ago. She gave my daughter that same doll.
Oh, that's
and I kept and I had to keep it, because you know how the kids are. They'll play with it for a little bit and they get bored and then they just throw it there. And I'm like, no, this is a valuable thing, like, in our lives. So she gave her.
I'm gonna play with it. Let me tell you, you just touched my heart, and I can feel, that I can feel how that sacrifice that you made, I can feel it inside. You just brought something up that was painful regarding money, right? And and that's what happens right there. All of a sudden we associate this feeling that we got, this like deep feeling of lack, with a moment, and we shoved it down. We forgot about it. We didn't think about it again. But guess what? We travel with that through our life. We travel with it. We take it like baggage, and we revisit it whenever we're going to buy something that is a little more than we think we deserve, right? And we're like, oh, I shouldn't spend that. And you feel guilty.
Yes.
Right.
And now with my kids too, like, I see they have so many toys sometimes. Like, when we're a big family, so Christmas comes and all my sisters get them something, I'm like, oh my God. So now what I did with them, they're getting older. Last year I said, guys, the toys that you don't play with anymore, we're going to donate it to the kids that don't have any. So like, it kind of makes me feel like, because I want them to appreciate what they have. Yes, I'm happy that they get to have that because I didn't have that, but I also don't want them to take it for granted. So we go, we pick up the toys and we donate it, and I make sure that they are in that process. Yes. So that's like something I kind of worked.
I think also, Raquel, oftentimes, today we may not even, I believe that we don't even talk about money with our kids properly. Like, we either create fear in them, by saying things like money doesn't grow on trees, right? Or we do the opposite. We give them everything, and we don't help them to understand that it's just a tool, that it needs to flow in and out of our lives beautifully, that we are entitled to receive it, that we are meant to be abundant. We don't discuss these things. They just either take it for granted that they have everything, right? Or we create fear-based conditioning to tell them the opposite. So what happens is we get mixed emotions about it, right? We're like split in half. We're not whole, right? When we are not whole in ourselves, we cannot begin to project that wholeness out into the world. You understand? So we got to get to that place where we understood where the split occurred. Maybe today we're incredibly abundant, but deep down inside, there's some blocks back there that don't make us fit the puzzle. And then guess what happens? We feel guilty. If we have too much, all of a sudden we're guilty. And that's not true either, right? That is just not true. Money is a tool. Money is an energy force that should flow in and out of our lives, because at the end of the day, no one has been able to take it with them. I mean, literally, you could hoard it for the rest of your life and you still will not be able to take it with you, right? So what we need to understand how we feel about it deeply inside, the feelings that are associated with it, and guilt, as you know, is a useless negative emotion. Guilt doesn't serve you. So if you feel any guilt whenever you do have abundance, then you need to bless that and transmute it and use the words that Christine Sheldon does, which is, I clear and transmute this across all space, dimension, and reality. Make sure you write that down. I clear and transmute this across all time, space, dimension, and reality. And you will see that it will just poof, disappear like a little cloud.
Repeat it one more time.
Okay, repeat it. I clear and transmute this across all time, space, dimension, and reality. And then Marissa, I love what she says. She says out loud, say, that is not me because, and you answer that question. For you, it may be, that is not me because I know that I am a worthy, deserving child of God that can experience all the beauty and abundance that is available to me. And you can fill that blank in however you want. And then you can say, again, reinforce it, that is not me, and it will never be me because. You get that? And remember, because your words, what you want is to create a familiarity. We love to go to the familiar. So we're always repeating patterns. You know, we're habitual creatures. That's how we are. So we can either create great habits or we can create bad habits. Habits that don't serve us, because there really isn't any good and bad, guys. They're just contrast. But basically, if we want positive habits, we need to enforce them, because what has happened is that up till now, someone else has been in charge of creating those habits in us through conditioning. For you, Deb, you were fine until Leonard came into your life and said, no, we don't have enough, right? So you now need to reinforce your own habits again. And by default, that will permeate the energy of your life, okay? Because energy is everywhere. Energy is everywhere, and you are vibration, right? And if that's true, which we've studied already to this point, you all know that an emotion is energy in motion, right? We all know this. So what we want is to create new energy in motion in beliefs that serve us regarding abundance and prosperity, correct? That's what we're trying to do. We're just clearing that out so that we can make space for the new. This is another thing that for me personally was a huge lesson. And actually, I'm still in this cycle of purging. I realized for me that I could not make space. And this is when I read Marie Kondo's book. Love Marie Kondo's book. I don't know if you guys have read it, but that book, there was a moment, this was a moment in my life. I read it like 3 years ago, before she became the Netflix thing and all that. It came into my life because I was doing the Goldman Sachs program. And Leslie was with me in that time, right? And Marcy, our business coach, right? She said, B, I think your book is similar to Marie Kondo's book. Have you ever heard of Marie Kondo? I said, no, I hadn't at the time. But it piqued my interest because I'm like, what is my book similar to her book, right? And when I read that book, there was a line in it, which I underlined. I don't have the book with me here because I didn't bring all my books with me for the apartment, but there was a line that I distinctly remember hitting me like in the chest. And it basically said, you cannot make room for anything new in your life if what you have already is too full. Something to that effect. And I went like, oh my God, I have too much crap. I want all these new things in my life. I want new experiences. I want to become a spiritual healer. I want to bring design enlightenment to the world. I want to do all of these things. But guess what? I have too much now. So I need to clear it out so that new stuff can come in. Right? If there's no room in a drawer, you got to take stuff out so that you can put new stuff in. Right? And then that is actually, the universe loves ritualistic gestures, okay, with intention. It just loves it. So when you do something ritualistic, like a gesture, like Marie Kondo says, does this spark joy? Does this spark joy? And if it doesn't, you release it, it responds energetically to you. That's the idea behind Marie Kondo's work and the idea behind decluttering. Because if we purge, and this not only goes with physical elements, this also goes purging our emotions too. We can't bring in new, loving, beautiful, deserving emotions if you haven't cleared out the negative ones. So these gestures that we do, these rituals that we do of releasing and purging old news, fake news, because it's fake, it's all fake, all right? It's all an illusion that we believe in, that we bought into at some point, okay? If we don't make room by releasing that stuff out, we can't bring new things in. There's just no room. Okay, so these gestures that we do, be it with money, be it with decluttering physical things in your house, these gestures that we make to the universe, it brings us back new things in kind. And then you can personally speak the words out loud. Like Marie Kondo says, does this spark joy? Right? By acting out that influence, not only does that article of clothing or that thing get the emotions that are tied into it release, okay, but it reinforces what comes in, okay? And I realized that big time, and I started purging the hell out of things. I got rid of everything that wasn't allowing my new life to begin, which included, at the time, the weight of the showroom that I carried. I mean, it was a beautiful showroom. I loved it. It served its purpose. But if I wanted to move into a different time, a different phase, I needed to make room. So I went about clearing it out big time because I didn't want to carry the weight of that stuff anymore. I wanted my new work to be about this. And all of that physical stuff that I had, which I still have and I'm still purging. I'm not done yet, guys. I'm not done. all of that was weighing me down.
I think the hard part with that I find, because I did the Marie thing with my clothes, because I am a hoarder of clothes, and and even when I thought I did good, when we moved back to our house in Coral Springs, I'm embarrassed to say, but I have my clothes in my closet, and we've got 3 guest rooms, and I've got clothes in 2 more guest rooms, not filled. One is filled, but the other one is not. So my thing is that I feel full of abundance, right? But then I feel like, why am I going to get rid of things that I spent my money on, right? My hard working money on. So that's the issue I have.
Well, I can tell you that keep doing this exercise, Leslie, and get to the root of that. Because I know for myself, I also remember another thing that came up another time that I did the exercise. Oh my God, you just gave me a flashback. I remember, and Meech, this is how I felt about shoes, because my mom would not buy me shoes, and I loved shoes, love shoes. We all love shoes, but anyway.
I don't remember that.
Oh my God, I was 15. I wanted a pair of shoes for my 15s. I wanted these beautiful shoes that I had in my mind, and I wanted them so badly. Oh my God, what an ordeal that was to get. Okay. And I remember she finally gave in, because they were like, in her mind, I don't know how much they cost, but in her mind, they were much more than she would have imagined spending on me. Right. So finally she gave into those shoes. And I remember looking at those shoes in my closet and just like sitting there looking at them like an idiot, like, oh, look at those shoes. I finally got the shoes. I'd put them on, I'd take them off, I'd put them on, I'd take them off. And guess what? I started that whole thing about shoes, as you know, Meech. Shoes, whenever I had any money, I went and buy a pair of shoes. Because to me, it was an expression of like, I can afford some beautiful shoes, right? Because the belief was, I was doing a gesture. I'm like, I grew up with this idea that I could not afford a beautiful pair of shoes. They had to be some plastic crap that was going to fall apart in 3 weeks or give you blisters, right?
A cheapy one. The cheapy one.
The cheapy one, right, exactly. So this was my gesture to the universe. It was like, no, I can buy them, and I'm going to buy them at full price. I'm not even going to buy them on sale, right? So there's all these things that we have inside of us and we don't even know they're there. So on that note, I want to talk to you about Louise Hay's ways, okay? And her chapter in her book goes over the money, I call them money mindset tools. These gestures that we can do to help us get over our abundance blocks. So first of all, bless and love your bills. Just bless them. I mean, have you ever stopped to think about a bill? A bill is a promise that you made to pay for something or a service or a product that someone gave you in advance. Isn't that amazing? They gave you this service in advance, knowing and believing that you have the ability to pay it. So why wouldn't you bless them and love them? Because that person or product or thing was given to you in good faith ahead of time. So you have to honor it with payment. You understand? So you feel that shift from fear to love? All of a sudden, it's not about a fear that you have to pay this. It's about a loving, faithful gesture that you're giving back, right? And that's the energy we want to live with. We want to live with that. Thank you for believing in me that I have enough money to pay your beautiful service or product. You get it? So that's number one. Love and bless your bills. Whenever you see one of those envelopes, say, oh, love you, I love you. Okay? Now, like I said before, make room for the new. Get rid of those stupid little bits in aluminum foil in your refrigerator. Okay? Make room for the new. Rejoice in others' good fortune. Whenever you see anyone experiencing abundance, honor it, bless it, and rejoice. Say, oh my God, that's wonderful. You got a gorgeous new purse? That's phenomenal. Oceans of abundance. I want you to think of money and the universe and everything as an ocean. Okay? Now you can come to the ocean with a teaspoon and pull water out of the ocean a teaspoon at a time. Or you can come to the ocean with a bucket. Or you can come to the ocean with a huge container and fill it. Is the ocean going to feel any different? No. That's the universe. It's how you come to it that is an expression of who you are. Do you feel that you only deserve a teaspoon? Or do you feel that you can siphon a hose into that thing and pull everything that you want out of it? It's up to you. You can decide to expand to the level of your abundance consciousness. Remember these words. Your prosperity consciousness is not dependent on money. Your flow of money is dependent upon your prosperity consciousness. Okay? As you conceive of more will come into your life. So what you want is to conceive it. Everything that comes into your reality, you created. So if that is true, you can create wealth and abundance. You just have to expand to that level of consciousness. And we have to get rid of our not true beliefs in order to allow ourselves to expand to that level of consciousness. And a lot of times we don't feel that we deserve that. And I can tell you one thing, as women, we have been ingrained, we carry that ancestral burden too, because in the very near past, as women, we were taught that we didn't even have the right to make money. Okay, our ancestors did not have the right to make money as women. They did not have the right to own property. They did not have the right to be in business. We are a different generation, ladies. We are a phenomenal generation with incredible opportunity, but that doesn't mean that those conditions of the past are not still deep rooted in the back of our minds. And that we believe that we don't provide for ourselves, that our husbands provide for us. Men have a little less hard a time with the money situation than women do because of those conditions. Now, I don't know what happened to Leonard, Deborah. But I can tell you, most of the time we carry the ancestral baggage and belief systems that were ingrained in us as women. So another tool that you can use that I love from Louise Hay is to literally open your arms out wide. This is another gesture. Remember that the universe loves rituals and gestures, okay? You open your arms and say, I am open and receive to all good and abundance in the universe. I mean, literally, just open your arms and say, I am open to receive all of the abundance. Not only will it make you feel really good, but it's a gesture. It's a gesture that you offer to release the old conditioning and to allow that to come into your life. And then you can also, another fun tool is to spend a day looking around at all the things that you might desire and say, oh, that's for me. Yeah, that's for me. And take a look at that and say, oh, that's for me. Yes, that's for me. Until it gets to be familiar. Because remember, we are little habitual creatures that lose familiarity with things that can serve and benefit us. So,
can I share something?
Sure.
So ladies, I don't know if you all know, I did a deck recently in my backyard. That deck has a value of at least $20,000. I don't know where I got the money from. And when I started to build it, or when we started to build it and my husband started to build it, we started it with no money. We literally started just buying materials and the money just started to come in by itself. Literally, I'm not kidding you. And for years, B has been trying to convince me to do this deck. And I was like, pero me voy a sacar el dinero. But where am I going to get the money from? Because it's at least $20,000 deck. Well, I want you guys to know that we're almost done with the deck. We're just waiting. We're just trying to finish up the pergola, which is about another $8,000. But we've built it. So I just wanted to share that because it, you know, sometimes we have that mentality of lack and we have that mentality of, oh no, we can't do it because we don't have the money. We don't have the money. Well, we built our deck and it's beautiful. And I'm super happy that we've built it. But again, I don't know where the money came from.
Well, the money came from the universe, baby.
Well, obviously, but I'm just
From
saying, like,
the
it didn't come,
from
it
the
didn't come
ocean
from
of
like
your
a
beliefs.
savings. Right, of course. But what I was trying to share is that it didn't come from a savings. It didn't come because we were holding it and saving it to build our deck. No, it just came by itself.
I've had that experience so many times in my life, Deborah. And here's what's interesting. I'm going to share something deeply personal to me. I grew to the point that I expanded and got rid of the majority of my poverty mentality. And I say majority because I'm confessing that I'm still not over it, okay? Because it's in there still. I work on this all the time through gestures of prosperity, like I've taught you. Because I can go to High Point, North Carolina, okay, and buy in 2 days, I can buy $150,000 worth of furniture for my showroom and put it there in faith. And yet, I can go to Neiman Marcus and look at $1,000 dress and say, no, I'm not going to spend that. Now, where does that fucking come from? I'm like, why does that happen? Right? It's taken me years upon years to be able to grab that $1,000 dress from the rack and say, you know what? I'm fucking taking it. Okay? How is it that I can do that? I can justify it without guilt for my business, right? Without fear. I want you to know absolutely zero fear in spending that kind of money there. But when it comes to buying it for myself, I feel the resistance. I feel that resistance. I'm like, where is that? And that's from my mom. That's from my mom telling me, no, you're not going to spend that on you. I'm not going to spend that on you. However, she would gladly spend it on my dad. I'm telling you.
Listen, she gives my kids the weirdest gifts I have ever seen in my life. A butterfly. I'm not kidding. My kids come home with a box with a dead butterfly in it. This is what I gave you. I'm like, oh, that's lovely. What the F?
Yeah. She will only give Oh my God. She will
button
only
that she
give what
found.
she doesn't want anymore.
You got it. And my kids recognize that
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. And she still does it. And I tell her, and let me tell you something, and I call her on it all the time, by the way, because, you know, I'm over not talking to my parents the way they need to be talked to. So I tell her straight up, you know, you're just doing poverty mentality, Mom. What is this sorry ass shit that you just bought? Really? She probably didn't buy it. She picked it up somewhere and then gives it away because it's free. You see? And she still, and I told her, don't you understand that that gesture sends the wrong message to the universe? Don't you get that? And and I'm talking about people that have been studying metaphysical, spiritual, meditating, all that their entire life.
B, but your parents are like two kids.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. They're my flower children. They
Yeah.
they belong to me. They're not
My sister and I are the parents.
I'm their parent. Yes, my sister and I are parents. We're the parents of them. They're only beginning to grow up now, right, Meech? They're like 60, 67, 70.
Oh, almost 70, almost 80, Dad, at
My
least.
dad's almost 80, and he's only starting to grow up. Only starting to grow up now.
Right.
So, you know, and I forgave my mom for that because I acknowledged where it came from and released it through all time, space, dimension, and reality, like I've told you. So you use these words, you quiet your mind, you bring up the ideas that are holding you back, not just about money, and you clear and transmute them through all time, space, dimension, and reality. And you do this gesture to the universe, and trust me, before you know it, you'll see, you won't have that pain regarding that particular trauma anymore. Leslie, I watched that incredible program called Emotion. It was fantastic with all of the most amazing teachers that I've already heard about and some that I had not. And it was very interesting, that method, which I have not tried yet, about the meridians and about passing your hand from front to back through your head, almost like swiping a credit card because it's a magnet. I was like blown away by that. And these are similar gestures that we can do to clear and transmute negative emotions that are trapped inside of our bodies and inside of our soul regarding things that happened when we were children or in past lives. Okay? So if we can get over our abundance blocks and our issues regarding money, and we use these tools successfully, and I want you guys to practice this. I want you to do this exercise. What we did today was a very little meditation. I need you guys to go deeper. And when it comes up, when you remember a memory that has to do with your association regarding money, write it down. That's the reason I can bring it up and share these with you, because I know specifically all of the little things that occurred in my life that created trauma. But it's really interesting because at 15, I told you the story in another session that I went to Europe, right? I went to Europe for the first time when I was 15. And I distinctly, this was another one that came up. I distinctly remember my mother saying, "We can't afford that. You can't go. It's impossible." So when she said those words, once again, I was almost falling into the trap of believing that I couldn't go. But I wanted that so badly, guys. I was so desperately desiring to go to Europe that I was going to make it happen no matter what. Okay? And the only thing that occurred to me was, okay, Mom, if you don't have to pay for 1 penny of me going, will you let me? Okay? Remember, I'm 15. And she said, "Sure, I'll let you." probably believing at that moment that I was not going to find the money to go, right? Because I could tell. You know how you can tell when your mom is like bullshitting, right? So she thought that I was not going to be able to make that happen. But little did she know that B will find a way. And that's exactly what I did. I got a job, I worked, I did whatever I had to do, and I made enough money to be able to go to Europe for the first time. And like I've said, that changed my life, that exposure, that expansion. And at that moment, I got a glimmer of that faith belief that Deborah's talking about. I got a little peek into my own power and ability to manifest. Okay? And it's just like everything. We have to practice this in all forms. We have to practice this in the mind. We have to practice this in the body. And ultimately, we have to practice this in the soul. That's where it all comes from anyway, right? So as we create these gestures and we get it's kind of like building a muscle, okay? We go to the gym one day, we're not gonna have a muscle the next day, okay? Simple as that. Now we go to the gym every day and we do a little bit every day, and lo and behold, a month later, we may be able to go, hey, whoa, this is getting a little stronger. I feel it. And that's what we're trying to do. We're creating a muscle. We're practicing these things that are going to allow us to recondition and reprogram ourselves in order to create our life anew. Because there is no such thing as lack. We create it when we believe it. You make your beliefs, and your beliefs make you.
Nataira has a question.
Yes. Go ahead, Nataira.
Well, hi guys. It wasn't, well, ladies. It wasn't more of a question. It wasn't like question. It was just, I can totally relate to that, to your experience wanting to go to Europe. Like, I feel like it was very similar when I told my parents that I wanted to go away for school. Just because like, and when we were doing the meditation, the moment that came to my head was when I was about 7 to 8 years old, and I was still in DR. I was born in DR, and I came here when I had just turned 10. And my dad, he has always been like going back and forth. And then, you know, at that time we were still like, you know, my mom and my brothers and sisters were still in DR. So it was more of a reason for him to go back and forth. So my mom basically had to find ways to provide for us because she has always been like a hardworking woman, right? And mind you, I was 7 to 8 years old, and I was the baby. I'm the baby of the family. So, but I've always been an introvert. But when it comes to providing for myself, when it comes to like finding a ways to get things done for myself, I don't care. I just do it. So my mom was just like, at that age, she was just like, oh, I'm gonna start making empanadas. I'm gonna start making like dulces to sell it, right? And as a little girl, she put me, because of my personality of, you know, not holding bullshit basically, and like, you know, like everybody had to pay me, and till this day they talk about that in DR as in like, oh, you know, esta muchachita, whatever, le tenían que dar dinero porque se lo tenían que dar, whatever, right? But to me, it was just more so like, okay, I was a baby, how you put me to sell it and then give the money to my brothers also? Like, you know, they couldn't do it because they were too scared or they were embarrassed. I was still embarrassed, but I was still getting it done for myself. And I feel like I don't know, I don't really think about that, but when it comes to spending money, I've always been like that. Like, oh, it has to be from the sales, like, side. Like, I can't spend so much money for myself, or like on myself. I can't go shopping because I have to pay bills. Like, I can't do this for myself because I have to do that. That's more important. But as I'm evolving, as I'm growing up, I've came to believe that I honestly, not that I don't care about money, but it's like, I've always worked since that age. I've always worked. So it's like, I feel like money comes and goes. So it's like, I don't stress about money. I don't, like, I have it because I always save. I'm a saver. Like, I always save money so that I can have it just in case anything happens, or like, so that I can just have it there, right? But I've always been a saver. So I don't really care about money. But when it comes to my partner, I don't know. I not to say that I've had like a really rough childhood, because just because we didn't have like a lot of money doesn't mean like it was hard. Like, he came from a very like harsher background. Like, he didn't really have his mom, his dad. So it was like he like Deborah, he recycles everything. He just but
I can relate.
And like for him,
look at all the partnerships that have come up. This is very interesting to me.
Listen, and like for him,
let me
you cannot spend money. Like, for him, it's just like, you have to save. Oh, don't touch that money. Like, you have to save it. I'm like, bro, like, it's gonna come from one way or another. Like, it's not like we stopped working, but it's like, I don't know. I wanted to share that.
But here's what I got from what you said, Nadaida, which I think is really interesting, okay? First of all, look at the seeds that were planted when you were a young girl. Your mom believed that you were the one that was capable. You call yourself an introvert, but your mom believed.
She's an extrovert.
Yes, I know that. And you're good, and you can feel confident. Look at what that seed planted in you. It planted the seed that you can sell, that you are capable, that you can do this for yourself. So nothing is coincidental in our lives. Nothing, okay? Every experience that we have, even the most insignificant seeming one, like when you were that young, was there to teach you to use these gifts and abilities that you have in a way in your life. And the reason that comes up when you are in that meditative state, and this is why I'm bringing this up, ladies, because we don't understand how powerful these little moments in time in our lives are until we allow them to be remembered. What does remember mean? Remember means to join again, right? To member, the member has to be re-established, right? We forget a lot of stuff, okay? And it's in that silent state that we are able to remember our thoughts. Sometimes those thoughts and emotions that come up, like if I asked you, Nataida, how did you feel when you were in those acts of selling your mom's stuff? Didn't you feel powerful?
I felt scared. I felt embarrassed. Like, the difference between me and my brothers is that, like, even though I'm the baby, like, I've always been the baby, like, I could be scared, I can be afraid, but I'm still gonna do it. Them, like, honestly, like, I can care less what people think. Like, you can, like, you have that in your mind, like, oh my God, like, what are people gonna think? But in reality, I don't care what people think, and they have always cared. But I was afraid, I was embarrassed, and when people still mention that till this day, I'm just like I'm still a little bit embarrassed, but not really, because it always comes to my mind. I'm like, listen, like, at least I did it. Like,
I think you, looking back, probably did feel scared, but you also simultaneously felt fearless, because you took that energy of fear and you transformed it. And that allowed you to get familiar. Remember that word today? That's the word of the day, guys. Get familiar with your emotions. Get familiar with how you feel when you transmute these things, okay? Because you are able to capture that memory that you had and use it in this life now, the one that you are today, the Nataida that's grown up. This is significant for you because you just had a memory. There's no coincidence in those memories coming back. You get me? Whatever came up, listen to it. All of you, whatever comes up, listen and ask another question like, why did I feel that way? What did I feel? Where did I feel it? You get me? So any memory that needs to be remembered, remembered into your consciousness, into your frontal, into the thought process of your mind, not the back, okay? You need to engage with it on all levels. Engage with it on a spirit level, engage with it on a thought level, and engage with it on a body level, okay? Remember all three of those things, and now you found the way to the new expanded version of you, okay? This is the tool that you use with money, and this is the tool that you can use with anything that comes up in your life. Like the day before yesterday, I was riding my bike, and it was July 3rd. And I was on the sidewalk and I got hit by a car and I fell in the street. So I hurt my shoulder, and you know, it's pretty painful. And at the same time that that's happening, okay, because this is where I am these days. It's kind of a weird scenario, but I fell. And of course, my body went through the reactions of being hit by a car. I mean, I'm in pain. I got up. I was like thrown off my game, the adrenaline rush of my body. I'm feeling it. The young man that hit me, Pobrecito, he must be like 18 years old. He was like a nervous wreck. He was like, can I take you to the hospital? What do I need to do? I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. All he did was apologize. Luckily, I was fine, except for this pain. But I got on my bike and I left the scene, and I immediately started going into, why did I draw this accident to myself? What happened? First of all, I blessed my angels for taking care of me. I could have been killed, literally, because literally it impacted me. I mean, it wasn't like a little bump, okay? So he could have kept going. He could have crushed me. I mean, there were so many scenarios that could have occurred that I blessed it, because I knew that I was in that moment very, very lucky, okay? Very, very lucky. But I also started asking myself questions. Why did this happen? What does this mean? What is this here to teach me? What is the purpose? Because I know that I create my reality. So even an accident is a reality that I created, okay? This is where I am in my state of being. And things started coming up. I was going too fast, me, not being in my present moment, okay? I was thinking about the next 3 weeks that are in my life, which means that I'm gonna move back into my house. Huge transition. When I moved out of my house, it was also like that. It was like 2 weeks, bam, 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 put everything in storage, move into the apartment, right, Meech? It was like crazy. And right after that, my immune system faltered and I got sick, which I rarely ever get sick. But because of the stress of that, I got sick, right? In fact, I thought I had the coronavirus. It turns out that I don't have the antibodies, but it was similar to that. I got a fever, I felt bad, I couldn't breathe, you know, And I asked myself again, why did this occur? Why did I create this reality? Right? So what came up for me yesterday as I was doing ballet, because yes, I taught ballet yesterday, what came up for me is like, oh, I did this again. I did this so that I don't go about doing what I usually do, which is carry everything myself, move everything, do it all, not ask for help, because, I love to not ask for help, okay? Because I think I can do it all myself without asking for help. So all of these things came up for me because of this injury, right? And I realized at that very moment that the money issue that came up, the first thing that was downloaded to me to talk about today was about money and our relationships with money and the abundance blocks that we have. So everything is connected. You know why? Because the first thing that came to my mind when I knew in 3 weeks I was going to move back into my house was like, shit, now I got to spend thousands of dollars to get help to move back into my house. Because that's what it's going to cost, right? And deep down in the back of my mind, I was like, do I have that money? Do I really want to spend that money? It's poof money. It's money that I can never see into something tangible, right? But guess what? It is. It's going to keep me healthy. It's going to keep me strong. And this time, I'm not going to get sick. And this time, I'm going to ask for help.
How dare you pay a mover?
Exactly. Exactly. How dare I, pay people to help me do this? But you know what? I am. I'm going to pay it. I'm going to bless it. I'm going to love it. I'm going to say, here's the check. Dale. Move that crazy ass shit for me. Because I'm going to say to the universe that I have enough, that I can ask for help and deserve it, and that I'm ready for the next phase of my life. And I'm ready to spend money to do it. So all of that came up for me because I asked the questions. So that's the power of asking the question. That's the power of coming with, and that's the power of understanding that you create your reality out of your beliefs. You make your beliefs, and your beliefs make you. Remember that. Okay, how do we feel today? Money's like one of these big topics. You might as well be talking about like sex, because money is like, it has all this energy attached to it. Any other share?
Yeah, hi everyone. Sorry I missed this wonderful meditation apparently, but I will definitely do it in recording. But I want to share with you also some tools. I would say, like, I had a big history with money and transforming my beliefs into money, and I was not born in like wealthy family, and I had several times in my life when we didn't have nothing to eat, or like one time I even lived in the car because I didn't have anywhere to live. So, and as I was an observer and explorer, so I was working on money beliefs and stuff. And one of the tools which really helped me when I looked into that situation, these blocks, like, I think was useful for me to make a notebook and to write down all that I heard from money. And even though sometimes, like at that stage of my life, I didn't believe what my parents were saying about money or what I heard from someone, but sometimes even just when you have basis of not being born into wealth, into abundance, or into prosperity, into opportunities, then it takes time to adopt that for real. because even if they occur, if the situation occurs, the situation changes and the life keep on showing, you know, you can, but still there are this like deep down patterns of that the thing might change and I might go back to the same situation before. So like one of the tools which helped me, so I was writing down all this like that I could remember. I heard about money that I don't want to be related with. So I was writing down the way I heard it. Like money is bad, like poor people are good people, like rich people are evil, like rich people are not trustworthy, like rich people are so mean and bad. And we had a lot of movies, cult of movies that rich people are horrible, they lie, they are like basically being rich means being mean, being crucial, and all this hard stuff, like which actually, if you are a good person and you want to be a good person, will block you to being rich, just because being rich in your mind, it's becoming a bad person. And if in the core we are beautiful people, like, and you're kind, the life will never turn a wheel for you to become mean, because it's not aligned to the goodness what you are. Just because you have this words that rich people do bad stuff, they do, same as poor people do. So everybody does. There are good people among rich, there are good people among poor, and vice versa. And it doesn't matter of your background and everything. They just are. So, but it's easier to really to hear and easy to say yes, but it's difficult to change the core of how you feel about it in your beingness. So
I agree, Christine.
Yes,
we have conditioned beliefs inside of us. And yes, you missed the early part of what I said, but yes, I mentioned that those are the beliefs that we grew up with. People tell us that all the time. And that's the beliefs that they grew up with too, by the way, because this is a pattern that needs to be broken, that comes from the past. Can you imagine, okay, and this is what you need to start becoming familiar with. Imagine if you had all the money that you could possibly desire, right? If you are a person that wants to make a difference in the world, money is just a tool to make that happen. That's all it is. The more money you have, the more you can give it away. The more you can do things that to help the world and serve the world with it. So it's exactly like Christina's saying, our beliefs that you know, I mean, my favorite term that I laugh about is the one I mentioned, which is filthy rich. It's like, why is money and filth together? What is that? You know, where did that come from? Who said that? You know, is it true? No. You know, so we need to completely recondition our minds with, and I like what Christina mentioned about writing things down, because another important thing to remember is that when we take our thoughts and we put them on a piece of paper, just like when we write our goals down, we actually do another one of those wonderful gestures that I'm talking about to the universe. We impregnate, for lack of a better word, the paper with a thought, and we're able to regurgitate that in a way that serves us by writing it down. Because thoughts, as you know, are happening popping up in our minds like popcorn all day long, right? But they're ethereal. But they're powerful. The minute that you take one of those thoughts, you grab them and you put them down on paper, it's almost like, you know, imagine yourself lassoing a wild animal, right? Like you're a cowboy and you're in the corral, and there's that thought, and you're lassoing it, grabbing it and pulling it in towards you and saying, sit here for now, right? That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to...
Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, sorry. I thought you was referring to me. Yeah, I wanted to say that, like, basically what I did, I wrote down this thought like as I heard. And then in a separate page or next to it, I transformed, or leave a space, transformed the same belief into the one which I like to have, like opposite, but without no. So the opposite belief of that, but without no. And then like for about like, good 3 months to half a year, I would say, every day I was repeating these phrases, just vice versa. And the mind actually works very interesting ways. There are simple things that only need is repetition. And actually it's already proven. Then if you just repeat, you don't even need, I mean, it's great if you believe in that, but it's hard to believe when you're a smart person and you write down the opposite and suddenly you will believe in the opposite. I mean, if you're a smart person, you deep down know that you kind of trying to believe, but you're not believing it. So it's a good thing that to not to fool yourself and to not to try to believe in it, just repeat it. And with time of repeating some things, the belief comes automatically. Just basically what it shows also, like the honest belief, not like the fake belief, like the belief that it can change, it's good, but the honest belief only comes with time. And when you try to see in there, like outside, what things that happened, the proof that it's happening, like even little things, like somebody gave you a gift. That's the proof. You need to look for proof. I'm looking for a proof. Show me. Oh, like I have like some, like I don't know, like I remember I had like a couple grivnas left and I was coming through the like store of like ice cream, and I just like, oh look, I have like this 2 grivnas, it's like $1. I can afford ice cream for myself. Wow, that's so cool. I will do this for myself. That's so awesome. So I can have what I want. So basically reassuring your belief with some even like simple things which you see. And so that's what helped to me, and actually that proved that it worked, because I happened to meet a wonderful man, like I fall in love with. He's my husband, and only like after we decided to get married, I learned how rich he is. So it was a bonus. But anyway, so, and you know, like that's what I was thinking, that like that there are good people everywhere. Like, and I grew up with a hard belief that rich people are evil. Like they're evil because our government is rich, our government is evil in Ukraine, and a lot of people who like they happen to be in our environment who were rich, they were proven evil. They were proven being mean, they were proven being bad. So, but guess what? The moment these things changed in me, how I know I attract more rich and good inside people. So it's not that you have to be rich or poor. For me, it doesn't matter, because I grew up I had everything in my life, so I can relate to anyone. It doesn't make a person rich or poor person. So that's the main thing. I judge by person, but not by how rich he is. But I also don't push away rich people just because they are rich. I give them a chance to be good. So that's the thing. Sometimes we just don't come because there is a block that they are evil. Because if you have beliefs that rich people are evil, good ones cannot come to your life. You just don't see them, and you prove every day will prove yourself that, yeah, look, all of them I know, they're all pure evil. So, and the same comes with richness to your life. Like the prosperity, the money doesn't come because it will become, the more money you have, the more evil you are. Oh my goodness, I'm becoming evil. I'm becoming.
That's your belief. That's exactly what I was saying.
I know.
You make your beliefs, and your beliefs make you. Remember that. Write it down. You make your beliefs, and your beliefs make you. And like I acknowledged, even an accident that affected my body 2 days ago doesn't come as a coincidence. It comes with a message. It comes with an important lesson to be taught. You know, and it's funny because I have a really interesting relationship. I laughed and I told my husband, because I didn't tell him that I had fallen on the street or any of that until like an hour later, because I didn't want my energy was still too disturbed. And I knew I was going to worry him for nothing, right? Because I knew, look, my arm, look, guys, look at my arm. I'm fine. Perfect. Because I talked to it. I healed it. I put a lot of good energy to it. I told it I understood why it had occurred and that it was okay. And then now it didn't have to bother me anymore. So in 2 days, I have pretty much healed something that could have been very radically bad. And it's funny because I went to ballet and I taught the class, and one of the ladies that was there suffers from like frozen shoulder, and she had a bunch of issues, and she was like all freaked out over about me even doing the ballet class with one wing. I had ballet with one wing, right? So she was telling me all of this stuff about how her shoulder had cramped and this and that. I said, I love you, girl, but that's not my reality. That's just not my reality. And I kept saying it, that's just not my reality. This is just a lesson for me. This is just for me to know that I can ask for help. This is for me to know that I'm going to be going through this next experience and phase and ushering it in with love and blessings. You have to kind of say these things so that you can bring them in. And that changing our beliefs is one of the hardest things that we do. Like I said, purge whatever you have so that you can create new things. You can bring new things into your life. Remember that whatever shows up, you created. And do the exercise that I taught you guys today in meditation. Not once, try and do it 3 or 4 or 5 times and write down the things that come up, the pivotal moments that created these blocks in you. And then clear and transmute them like I taught you. Clear and transmute this over time, space, dimension, and reality. And make your reality a new one. You can do this. And if you can do this with money, which is such a controversial energy, okay, you can do this with anything. You can do this with forgiveness, for example, because that's one of our biggest ones. You know, our biggest challenge most of the time is forgiveness. And we don't realize how much lack of forgiveness we carry inside. So if we can do this with money, then you can transfer it to forgiveness and resentment and anger, okay? Because we need to purge all of those negative energy patterns from our bodies and from our minds in order to express ourselves anew. These tools can be used not just for money, but for everything. Money is just a great one because money is a tangible tool that we use daily, right? The other stuff is kind of intangible. It's very etheric. Have you ever stopped to think in that same meditation? It's like, who have I not forgiven? You can use that same meditation that I created and say, who have I not forgiven? Even when it comes to money with my mom, I'm at a stage today that I can laugh at it, call her on it, and forgive her for it. And be grateful for the strength that she gave me by contrast. Because the day that she told me, you're not going to Europe because we can't afford it, and I said, I am and I will, guess what? She taught me that I can. That was a beautiful thing. And that's what I choose to focus on. Yes, Meech?
I think she also taught us to be very creative and crafty because
yes,
we just made everything.
Yes.
Like you said, you learn to sew, we learn to paint, we learn to do everything on our own. And we just tried it. Nothing told us we couldn't. If we wanted it and we just, you know, they didn't give us the money to do it, we would find a way, you know, so.
One little funny anecdote, I always laugh thinking back, Meech, how many times did mommy not say, well, you're all going to college. You're going to college.
Oh, that's a
You're
bad
going
topic.
to college. you're going to college. You're going to, I grew up with a mother that said, you are brilliant. What was it like that movie, The Help? You are, Maribel, you always say this. What is it? You is kind. You is beautiful. What is it that she used to tell the little girl? Anyway.
I don't know, whatever it was, yeah.
That movie is so funny. But my mom would say.
What movie?
The movie called The Help. The Help. I read the book, and it's a movie called The Help, and she is, you is kind, you is beautiful, she's like the help, she's the nanny, right? The housekeeper.
Important.
You are important. You are important. And these are the things that we need to be told to ourselves. We need to tell ourselves this, right? But the point that I'm making is that, my mom, always told me that I was incredibly capable. I can tell you that much. As much as she had the poverty mentality, she told me, and my dad too, nothing can hold you back. You are incredibly capable. You're both beautiful, intelligent, amazing women. Is that not true, Meech? But she also said, you're going to college. And when we got to the age that we were going to college, we were ready to go to college, but there was no money to go to college. So we had to get very creative about how to go to college, but we did. Because
hey, I paid for it myself, basically.
Yeah, me too. Because she kept saying, you're going to college, but she didn't worry about saving money for us to go to college. She knew that we were going to go to college no matter what.
Listen, I couldn't get her to fill out the financial aid paper. Like, can you please fill out this damn paper so that I can get some money coming to me so that I can go to school? If not, I have to figure out a way to do it.
In today's world, we're all, as parents, worrying about how we're going to pay for our kids' college, right? My parents just believed that we would go to college, and there was no money there saved for us to go to college. But guess what? My sister and I went to college because we made it happen. So, these things they blow my mind that I'm able to bring them back into my memory and able to process them in a positive manner. Like Christina says, change the negative into a positive. Understand that everything that happens, including an accident that could have killed me 2 days ago, I blessed it. I thanked it. I said, thank you for showing me something that I didn't understand about myself. And also, of course, thank you for giving me a new day to breathe and to share. So, yes, Nataira.
I have a question. It has nothing to do with today's topic, but you mentioned it, and I have like this little, I don't know, energy within me that wants to ask this so bad. So, when do you know, and how do you know when you've forgiven someone for anything? Like I don't know. Of course, like obviously you can't forget things. So for me, when it comes to forgiving, it's very hard because even though I say, yeah, I forgive you, but it stays in my mind. And it's like, I see you and you remind me of whatever that time,
Mm-hmm. So I guess when I said that word about forgiveness,
it triggered
that, huh? Okay. So forgiveness is a very, very heavy topic because it's tied into a huge trauma body. We carry it in our pain body, right? How do you know? When you're able to say, and this is a tool, I write it down as well. I say, I forgive you, and you name that person. You name that person for not being what I wanted you to be. Because at the end of the day, you're not forgiving because of your expectations. That person or that event, whatever that was because you had expectations over it that were tied to deep emotions inside of you. and that person couldn't meet those expectations. Okay, so you want to say that, I forgive you blank for not being what I wanted you to be. Okay, and you repeat it over and over until your heart, and you put your hand on your heart and you breathe it out until you can believe it. And it doesn't happen overnight sometimes. It depends on how big the trauma is. If the trauma really, really was painful, ask yourself, where am I holding this in my body? Sometimes it'll turn into a disease. Sometimes it'll turn into an accident. And it's funny that you mentioned that, Nataira, because I was about to tell the story about the 4th of July. The 4th of July, many years ago, was when I broke this finger. Remember the story about this finger? About me breaking it in 4, I broke 4 bones and had 24 stitches on the 4th of July, probably 7 years ago, right? And it's funny because when I had the accident 2 days ago, I was like, is this like am I carrying this 4th of July energy back into it? What are you trying to teach me again, right? Because this was a pivotal moment in my life when I crushed this finger. When I felt so helpless about being able to face another abusive human being and go on a trip with that person, that I wanted so badly to get out of that trip that I created an accident for myself so that I could not go. So that's how deep these traumas can be. You know, you carry them in your body. So I used that tactic. I spoke his name after that word. I said, I forgive you, blank, for not being what I expected you to be. Okay? And I transmuted it. And I no longer feel that way about that person. And how do you know? Is the answer to your question is, how do you know? When you no longer feel that pain anymore. When you think about that person and you name them, and the only emotion that comes up is love. That's when you know. So I ask you all, because it's come up, Nataira, to go back to whoever you haven't forgiven and to feel it and to release it and to let it go, because it doesn't serve you. The pain is in you. Christina.
Hi, I have another great exercise which I did for about a year. So about forgiveness.
She's like the queen of exercises of this stuff. That's why.
I work myself about at myself since I'm like 5 years old, and I watched a movie about magic sticks. So, and I work on myself, on changing myself and changing life around me, and finding the tools, experimenting. So a great tool for forgiveness, actually. It's exactly like we said, but what I did, I made a notebook again, and I wrote that I allow myself, be myself, and I allow others, be themselves. And after that, I wrote, I started to work on my whole life, and it happened like maybe 7 years ago. So since I'm childhood, since kindergarten, I started to write names or just nicknames, whatever I remember, about people who came to my mind that I might be upset with. So there is something to forgive. Let's put it this way. And trust me, it's a lot of people. It's like, it sounds like so little, but it's a lot, especially if you go in childhood and usually starting with your family, because it's not about the intention to make you feel bad, intention for you to be in a situation that you will need to forgive. It's about the situation itself, and things happens.
Yeah.
Even of misunderstanding, we might be holding something that we don't know of, even if it was misunderstanding. So after writing these names, so I started with several pages at a night. So I was reading one name, and I was imagining this person in front of me. It's exercises I got from some courses. I did a lot of courses, different courses. So you imagine the person, the face of the person in front of you, and you look at this person in the eyes and say, I forgive you. And next one, say, and I love you. And trust me, to say, I forgive you. Oh, you feel so good. I'm so great. I can forgive. I'm so awesome. I'm so kind. I'm such a good person to forgive. But to say honestly, I love you, and you feel love to the person who hurt you, that's a tricky one. So, but believe it or not, after a time, if you repeat this, I love you, I forgive you, and I love you, with the thought in mind, like B said, that the quote that B said about this, like, I forgive you for not meeting my expectation, or in my case, it was, I forgive you to be the way you are, and I let myself be the way I am. So I can be upset. He can upset me. He can do whatever his being was doing. It's his right to do, or to be not good, or to be good. It's not, and my right to be myself. I can be upset or not. So, and then after a while, when you repeat this phrase, I forgive you and I love you, to these people, I was crossing the names to whom I could feel this love for just being themselves, for just being an asshole, but for just being a human, a different human on this planet, for the way they are, to bring this difference in this whole thing, to trigger this stuff in me to work on, like basically for being the way he is. And so without changing him, without wishing to change anything, there was no wish to change anything, just acceptance of the other person to be the way he is, and love him for this difference, for existing this, for the soul to exist. So that helped me, and that was the answer of the question. So when I felt that I can look at the person in the eye and say, I forgive you and I love you, that moment I know it's gone.
Yes.
So I don't know if it will help you.
When you can transmute that pain into love. It took me 10 years to do that with my ex-husband, by the way. It took me 10 years to really not feel that pain, and to be able to say, like Christina says, I love you anyway. Sometimes it's easier, instead of saying I love you, to say I love you and add the word anyway, because it'll help you to believe it a little bit more. Because until you can say I love you and mean it, you might try I love you anyway, because it's a lot when you've been hurt to say I love you and mean it. So you might start slowly by saying I love you anyway. I love you anyway. And that's a little more palatable, right? You can feel that feels a little bit easier, a little less resistance. I love you anyway. And once you get over that a little bit more, then you can say, I love you and mean it. Because we're all connected, every single one of us. The whole point is to get back to being whole together, to being connected with God and with Source. We are all separated so that we can expand and experience, and then we come back to unity. Because in unity, we cannot experience all the contrast and interesting things that we experience daily. In fact, when I had that bike accident, I was asking myself, look at how interesting the contrast that I created for myself. Everything was way too perfect. So I had to do a little bit of experimental pain so that I could feel a little different and understand how grateful I am to move my arms like this. So I blessed it, even though I felt it. And I was like, my first instinct was, right? How did this happen? But then you kind of breathe in through it.
Or
So
think about maybe the message you might have sent him too with that.
yes, I
Okay.
think Leslie, in that emotion, let me tell you guys, you have to go on to that link that Leslie put on our feed. And that particular Gaia episode called Emotion is beautiful. In fact, they have an exercise that's a Hawaiian one, Hopopopo, I forget the name of it, but it says, I'm sorry, I forgive you, I love you, thank you. I'm sorry, I forgive you, I love you, thank you.
Yes, there is a song. There is a song. Did you hear the song? The song with this. Oh, I can send it to you. It's a beautiful song. You can just put it on and it sing with this voice. I forgive you. I love you. Oh, that's a very beautiful song. I will send the link. And also regarding this, also like mind training, this limiting beliefs change. Also, there is a great book of great author which actually wrote in the book everything I thought I was so mastermind. I came up to these techniques when I was a little girl and I thought it's my invention, but apparently somebody else came up with that too. And I read a book recently about all my inventions of childhood. So, and which is amazing because it's John Kehoe. It's mind powers. I know like soul is very important, but also sometimes in order to open the door to the soul, we need to go through our mind, which is like a guardian to our soul sometimes.
Yes.
So it's also kind of, I think that's what's important in both. It's soul, but sometimes with these limiting beliefs, we cannot hear what our soul really wants because it's kind of just a fog, like a fog. So I can send the link for this book too, if somebody will be interested, so they can.
Thank you.
I wanted
Tina
with you girls, and this is what's worked for me, right? When I was 6 years old, my cousin raped me, right? And for many years, well, for several years, that was a continuing action of his, right? Like he did it several times, not just once or twice. He did it more like 3 or 4 times. And
wow.
For many years, I was always scared of him. Like whenever he would come around, I would be like scared to be around him, and I would be like, afraid. And if he would come around my children or my older son, I'd be like a hawk on my son. Stay here next to me. Don't move. Get over here. Because his mother was my godmother, which was a very, very close person to me. So occasionally he would come around. And I would go to church back then, right? Like, let's say 10 years ago, I started to go to church, and the pastors at the church taught me that if I prayed for him, I would release that anger or that feeling that I had inside of me. And that's what I started to do. I started to pray for him. I started to pray for his sins or for his mistakes. I prayed for his abuser, because he had also been abused when he was a kid. And that's how I started to let it go, and just praying for him and praying for him and praying for him, and praying for myself and telling myself that it's okay. You know, yes, this happened to you, but this is not something that has to weigh you down for the rest of your life. And that's how I was able to let it go and forgive him. And now I haven't seen him in over, I would say, 6 years. But even if I don't see him, like even if I was to see him now, obviously I'm not going to be warm and fuzzy, because I've never been warm and fuzzy with him. But I would be okay to be in his presence. Like I know that I wouldn't be afraid, and I know I wouldn't be mad to be in his presence, because I've let it go, and I know that I've asked God to forgive him. And I know that's hard to sometimes understand and be like, how did you do that? Because I still question myself sometimes. I'm like, how did I do that? But it is possible.
Anything is possible. Anything is possible.
It's a lot of psychological work on yourself.
Anything is possible through love. And it's interesting how how this talk about money has channeled its way into forgiveness, because those two, there's a lot of trapped energy, negative energy to both of those concepts. It's almost like they could run in the same frequency, right? If you think about it, right? That the energy there is almost at the same level of depth. We harbor, we have a tendency to harbor those emotions very deeply, as if we are not supposed to talk about them. So talk about them we did. And I'm so happy that we were able to share all of these aha moments. And believe me, we only did a little 3-minute meditation. I barely. So imagine the power of doing that a little more deeply on your own. I challenge you all to take it, and I invite you to try and do this for yourselves in any block that you might feel about any negative emotion, and let the memories come up and bubble up as they wish. Because if they do, they will be teaching, they will be coming up to be purged. Okay? Whatever comes up is perfectly fine. And similarly to like when you're dreaming and you wake up in the morning and you had like a dream that you had and it was a fleeting image, right? And if you don't write it down, it just disappears. Okay? Try and when you get that image, memory, idea in your mind, try and capture it and write it down afterwards in your notebooks, because maybe even at that moment it won't be clear as to what it's there to tell you or teach you or open up to you. But if you stay with it and you ask yourself the question, remember, ask questions. What is this here to teach me? What is this here to tell me? What is this here to open up for me? It will come. So thank you again for sharing these beautiful time with me. I can't believe it's been 2 hours since we've been together. Wow. It never seems to be enough, but I'll be back next week with more fun things to go over and share with you all. And please share with me anything that comes up during the week. I love to hear from you guys. It makes me so happy when I hear that you have had insights or breakthroughs and are able to process and implement these tools and lessons that I give on Sacred Soul Sundays. Thank you so much. Love you.